And we're now live. Hello and welcome to Broadsheet on the Telly. My name is John Preposterous Ryan. You're very, very welcome, particularly, particularly Broadsheet readers and Broadsheet commenters and even the trolls. Tonight we're going to be joined by Lucky Kumbula from the, to talk about direct provision. We got from Kilkenny, Johnny Keenan, from Dundalk, Marcel Kruger, from Dublin, we've the double act of Neil and Ruth Curran. Ruth is Neil's sister, and Ruth was with us at the St. Patrick's Day Broadsheet on the Telly, and is back married since we last spoke. So we're going to catch up with Ruth and Neil and Vanessa Foran, accountant and GA fan, and
someone that talks too much, apparently, John.
Who says that? Did somebody say that? Vanessa, that you talk too much?
Yeah.
Who was that now?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh my God.
The fans, Vanessa.
And we're going to be joined by Olga Cronin from the Sheet, who's going to talk to us about the Disclosures Tribunal. Olga's been at the Tribunal. She's not doing a shift in town, but
is she not?
No, no, not at the moment. But so she should be with us very soon if she isn't asleep. Marcel, welcome back.
Oh, so the shifting escalated then.
I couldn't possibly comment. Marcel, welcome back.
Thanks very much.
Where were you the last couple of weeks?
2 weeks ago, when we had the first show of the new year, I was actually traveling, and I arrived back in Ireland, I think at 11:30, so I just couldn't make it. And last week I was out of order. I was really sick with the man flu, so
okay,
that prevented me from joining.
Actually, just on the
serious epidemic there.
Yeah, I know.
I know a few guys as well that had it.
I really thought I was dying. Really.
Was it worse than like the last flu you got?
Say again?
Was it worse than the last flu you got?
Yeah, definitely.
Or it was like this was a serious.
2018 didn't start really well, but what can you do?
Wow. So you got that virus because Johnny did as well. But he came in last week, Marcel, which is
yeah. You can't beat the Irish.
No.
He fell asleep a few times, passed out a few times, but he made it.
And Neil, and welcome, Ruth. Congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you.
I understand because Neil wrote a piece for the site about your mum. I'm very sorry about that, but I gather it was in the middle of the honeymoon as well. So
Yeah. It was the third day of our honeymoon.
I'm very sorry. It sounded like a complete nightmare for the family.
Yeah, it was a crazy month.
So you married that guy you mentioned.
Yeah.
That you were going to marry.
Yeah, that guy.
Because we were talking behind your back and saying that that's not going to happen or something. I think Johnny was convinced it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah,
because obviously I know everything about Ruth's personal relationship, John. Yeah. Well, you got nothing there, John. You can't hang me on that one, man.
Well, we didn't like the sound, Ruth. We didn't really like the sound of him. I don't know what it was about. Something you mentioned about him that we weren't sure about. Or you weren't sure.
Was it because he was Canadian?
It was.
That was
definitely part
of it. I think it was his socks.
But at least he wasn't Marcel anyway. So welcome back. So tell me about the wedding and everything, Ruth.
It was great. It was really good. We got married in Huntington Castle in Carlow, and we had 30 Canadians come over, so that was great fun. It was a big week of fun, and the wedding day was classic Irish. We were obviously wanted to do it outside, weather dependent, and the morning of the wedding it pissed rain, and then about 10 minutes before the wedding started, the skies opened up, so we had it outside, and it was brilliant. The day was perfect. I wouldn't change anything except for my nail color, but no, it was brilliant. It was the best day.
And your husband, how is he now?
He's good. He had, everyone says the first year of marriage is the hardest. And I would say it was the first 5 days of marriage were the hardest, because when we were on our honeymoon with my mom. But no, he was great through everything. He was in the hospital every day, and it was, he's great. So
yeah. And will you get a honeymoon this year, or?
Yeah, we're gonna go maybe in April and do something different. We probably won't. We were going to Spain, and we were doing a big road trip around Spain, but we'll probably do something different because I don't want to do that again.
And you're back for Neil's daughter Sadie's
exorcism.
Yeah. And this is the first time this isn't the first time you met Sadie, is it?
No, it was. Yeah, today was the first day I met her. She's gorgeous.
Is she? Yeah, great.
Yeah. So I'm really happy to be back to have met her.
Yeah, and Neil has to go through the rigmarole, or the pretending to be a Catholic on Saturday or something.
I know. I actually said that tonight. I was like, I'm surprised you're getting. I'm always like, it's always funny on Facebook, like being, because nobody like we won't baptize our child, and it's always funny on Facebook seeing Irish friends say this and that about the Catholic Church, and then the next week they're at a christening, and it's just such a tradition. And I guess it's obviously because schooling and everything, but it's just I think it's really it's funny.
But Neil, you didn't feel coerced. I mean, you felt that just
oh, completely. It's completely obliged to do it. Your principles as an adult go out the window because you're taking care of another life form now. So you're kind of trying to future-proof her educational possibilities while expelling demons from her body. So yeah, you've got to kind of live with that.
Could you can you not enter could you put Sadie forward for a Catholic school, and would she have a better chance with the baptismal certificate?
Well, I mean, I guess we're not at the stage where it's pretty clear, and for that schools have to take everyone on a level playing field, or so it's just not worth the gamble, not worth the risk. And you don't know where we'll be living in future years. So while you could say, well, just go to Educate Together, maybe where we're living, if the Educate Together may be closer, and it's not so close in their case. But if you're moving somewhere else, there may not be an Educate Together option. So we just kind of took that decision hypocritically to do it to protect the educational future of the child.
God. And
Mount Anvil are very fussy, John.
Sadie's going to Mount Anvil. Is that go?
There was an interesting thing that came up, Jerry. So I got duped into attending the baptism meeting, and I mean all of this very respectfully, of course. It's just so we went to this meeting, and there was no priest there. There was I guess a couple of volunteers from the parish who have responsibilities. And they said prayer. So I thought this was a 20-minute meeting. I was there for over an hour, and we said prayers and read scripture. And I was the only guy there without a child or a wife. So I was like the local pervert in the meeting. But there was a question came up. People were asking questions, and there was a few babies in the room. And somebody asked, somebody was baptizing a child who was much older, like a boy, like less than 10, but still older. And there was a question about, well, is the priest going to dunk his head into the basin? And it was kind of like it was a question out of left field for, I guess, the parishioners, or whatever the correct title is. And if you want to take Catholicism, I guess at look back to the Bible. I mean, adults were baptized in the Bible, not children yet. In Ireland, we do it at such a young age. So yeah, it was kind of surreal. And I'm not knocking anyone who's of faith, and I'm quite well versed in Catholicism and a lot of religions. But it's just a kind of a surreal thing, and it is that you knowingly, hypocritically, you're doing it for to provide a better education options for your child.
Yeah. Have you chosen a godfather and a godmother?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of let her the missus kind of, I took her lead with that because I don't really give a shit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, no, what I mean by that is like but
symbolic
role. It's a symbolic role as opposed to a role with purpose. But yeah, no, we do have people close to us who are filling those shoes, so they'll be part of the exorcism as well.
Well, I'm a godfather, and it's like it is a role. You know, you have to do.
You have to buy Christmas presents and birthday presents,
but also they can't. You know, fatherly advice and all that kind of paper. You know, I mean, you wouldn't. You got to be careful who you choose anyway, Neil. So that's.
You do, but I mean, what essentially is that role? I mean, I remember when I was young and I asked my parents what do my godparents do, because I think my god, I actually don't know who my godfather is. Oh, I do know who my godfather is, but my godmother was very active in my life, and she'd a few shillings to her name, so she always gave me great Christmas presents. But I asked my parents like what was their role, and I can remember my mother saying, "Well, if anything ever happened to your mommy and daddy, they would take care of you." So that was kind of what I thought godparents were growing up, and clearly those days are long over.
Well, yeah. Well, if you choose unwisely, my brother's godfather was Dominic Behan. So that was just like and mine was a guy called Dinny, who was a negligent godfather. Let's put it that
way. He wasn't a dub anyway.
Was he your man in Glenroe? Is that him?
Well, Katie, my goddaughter Katie, I just said to her, look, I'll post bail for you. You know what I mean? That's my role, I think. If it gets.
Oh Jesus, you didn't.
No, but if it gets really bad, no, of course. I mean, but no, I would be the kind of the person she could go to if there was like an absolute stuff that she couldn't tell her folks. I guess isn't that the deal?
That sounds very dicey, Jared.
Okay. Well, just like the uncle, Uncle Gary,
Is this the kind of you want to be the cool uncle? Is that really what this boils down to?
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's pathetic. It's very sad, but you're not going to down with the kids, but you're kind of a little bit less strict or something than their parents, maybe. Yeah.
But being the weird uncle from abroad is actually a perfect role. I like to play that all the time. So
are you?
Yeah, I'm the godfather of my actual niece, so that's taken care of on
yeah, exactly. So, that's the same. Katie's my niece, but so you're an oddity anyway. You're kind of like the weirdo.
So Neil, we're the guys we're allowed to buy the Hulk fists, and not the the proper toys.
Oh yeah.
This is how that goes.
Exactly. Bit of weed, maybe.
Later
when they get to a certain age.
My niece is 10.
So, do you have kids, Marcel? No, because I was going to ask, do you think you'd make a better godparent than a father? Because would your kids view you as cooler than your godchildren are? I guess I'll find that out.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no. I think my goddaughter forgot my name for a period because I didn't see her for a few months.
I think it's my godfather's Dinny Dwyer. Very nice man, very, very nice gentleman, and but he was an absentee godfather, Anyway, sorry.
Did he look after? Did he look after his last letter, John?
No. I think he was. He liked the bookies apparently. So all my birthday money, I guess, went on to 230 at Kempton.
Yeah.
Which is still running. Vanessa, I wanted to talk to you. One of the topics that we were going to discuss was the Kerry babies, and I suppose you and I would be of that age.
You're dying to tell everybody that, John. You have the first thing to say that now for a long time.
You were very, very, very young, but can you bring us back to '84 and that period of time Jerry O'Sullivan from Radio Kerry said it is a different Kerry. It was a different Kerry.
I don't believe it's a different Kerry anyway for a start. But just to go back to 1984, I was in 5th year You know, I suppose you look back on it and you think, Jesus, like, were we really that stupid and dense? We believed everything, or we didn't object, or, you know, because I just remember every day the newspapers, the whole front sheet inside was just all Kerry babies. It was just all about Joanne, and photographs of Joanne and Jeremiah Locke, and then word for word, everything was going on. And you were so, I suppose, smothered by it. It was very hard to actually be objective at the same time. And it was just awful. It was just an awful time. And, you know, and Lovett died the same year the baby was found, you know.
Yeah.
And it was a horrible, horrible time to be. It was a terrible time to be a teenager, I think, in Ireland, you know.
And Lovett was she had given birth to a baby in a grotto at Bernard and died.
Actually, her anniversary now would be, it could be the 30th or the 31st of January, I think, of this month. Yeah.
She'd be 50.
It's amazing.
She'd be
50 this year.
Yeah. Same age as myself. And but that period then obviously was just sort of deeply, deeply weird.
It's very weird. Looking back on it now, it kind of feels, you kind of realize how weird it was. It didn't feel weird at the time.
Yeah, but
looking back now, it does look. If it does, it was. It's just a wonder we're not all fucking screwed up, really.
But I distinctly remember that there was the feeling that, like, Joanne Hayes was considered, you know,
a terrible person, you know.
That was the
this is going to happen to you. It'd be all over the papers, and there was definitely that kind of.
Oh, there was.
I don't believe anyone said that to me, but that was definitely the feeling.
Yeah.
You know, and
Johnny, this week, has that brought back memories of the 80s, or were you too young then?
So I had a BMX. That's all I was concentrating on. So I would have been very innocent. I think there's a big difference between 10 and 15. You know, 15 you're into your teens. 10 you're still a kind of kid. So I was completely oblivious to all that. I don't remember Anne Lovett, but I do remember. Obviously, it was a lot of tension going around about Joanne Hayes, especially in 1985, because that went on for a few months, didn't it?
The Tribunal.
Yep.
The Tribunal. So obviously it was in the papers, and I do remember my mother, who's passed on since, being very emotional, but I don't know why. But obviously it all kind of, fucking. I do remember also the women's program on RTE, Good Night Sisters, Nell McCafferty, and I remember that was kind of, you know, a big talking point as well. So I suppose from a child's ears, and what I remember, because I haven't been talking to any of my siblings or family about this in the last week, but I just remember at the time that it was quite an emotional time for women, and the way they were treated, it was just horrendous. And you know, and when you look at it now, there was still Magdalene laundries around then, so
it's true. And Besborough was still open then.
Yeah,
Besborough was still open till the early 90s.
Marcel, were you aware of the Kerry babies story?
I was before the news, but not because from back then, because then I was a 7-year-old in Cold War Germany. But I was aware of the story before the news broke last week. Yeah.
Well, what do you make of it?
Well, it's the whole thing. I did a bit of reading in the whole Charles Haughey kind of era. What was it called? The Gubu thing. And sometimes when you hear these things from the 70s and early 80s in Ireland, it really feels like a different country or a different world almost, especially compared to West Germany in the 80s. Like the stories buying contraceptives or buying condoms and bringing them down on the train from Belfast and these type of things. When you hear these snippets and bits and pieces. And such horrible stories like the Kerry babies, you're like, ooh, this happened in the middle of Europe, you know. So that is sometimes it's hard to fathom for me with Ireland today.
Yeah.
So that's interesting in a way.
I thought Freddie Keane made an interesting point on the sheet that about Radio Kerry. The guy said that Kerry has moved on. Well, I remember it was highlighted. The name of Keane on News Talk highlighted a few years ago as well. But people seem to forgot about it. But Freddie is that's a few years ago there was a court case in Listowel, North Kerry, where I don't know exactly what your man's connection was, but he seemed to be well connected anyway politically and a pillar of this community. And he raped a girl and fairly bad. But he got sentenced, and I think 50 people, including the priest, queued up to shake his hand and almost commiserate with him while the victim was there in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And I just remember at the time, and I'm going, nothing's changed in this country. And I said, well, that's not even 3 years ago, is it? So this I don't even know why, and I'd like to know, not that it shouldn't be, just park that aside, that Listowel thing. I think everyone is aware of that one, are they?
Oh yeah.
That can, yeah, okay. So, but why now?
The priest said.
Yeah, we can.
He said at the time, and I think he subsequently still maintains this, that he doesn't believe the victim in this incident. That's where they were coming from. That's what he was trying to suggest. But
there you go. So that suggests that women are still second-class citizens in North Kerry anyway. For a start,
the conviction obviously proved them completely wrong.
Well, he was already convicted when they formed that queue. Actually, he was waiting on sentencing.
Okay, and well, I gather that the sentencing is nearly up. Anyways,
Oh, he's out, I think.
Oh, out, right? Okay, is that why?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Johnny.
No, but why? And I'm not saying it shouldn't be, because it should. But why all of a sudden is the Kerry babies thing in the news domain, and why are they making an apology now?
Well, Gemma O'Doherty tweeted something on the Kerry babies apology, and it's to the effect that Noreen O'Sullivan was to appear at the Disclosures Tribunal the next day, and it's sort of a persuasive argument, because you'll notice whenever Noreen's about to appear anywhere, there's a big Garda story from Garda, like contrived from them, not like an incident. Why did they make that apology? Has it something to do with Noreen appearing the next day? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, but it also it brings into the whole debate about repeal the 8 as well, doesn't it? No.
Yeah, no.
Well, 83.
Sorry. Can I just say that it's a little bit simplistic that they did it just for that. I think they were looking for the right opportunity.
Okay, yeah. I take that point as well. Obviously, yeah. It wouldn't be beyond them. Nothing's beyond the Irish police. Nothing.
Well, we're going to hear from Olga next, or when she wakes up, about the stuff at the Disclosures Tribunal, which would just make your eyes water.
Yeah, I was also interested in that. Sorry, John and Cross. That Jerry O'Carroll, he was the main man back then as well. And I was always curious, why does this guy turn up on News Talk and prime time the whole time with an air of arrogance, like pig ignorant? Dare I say it? Arrogance. And I didn't realize he had that much of a deep history with the Kerry babies.
Oh yeah. And actually,
unbelievable. Fucking unbelievable how he'd have a platform.
Well, it's incredible. I mean, it is incredible. They're necessary.
So I think by 2012 they knew the baby in Carcivine had nothing to do with Joanne, and even then in 2014, Jerry O'Carroll still wrote in the Herald, he is convinced Joanne had twins.
Yeah.
Like the time, he still thought he could say what he liked, even though they had the DNA to say to.
Well,
prior to that,
he has a platform in Irish media anyway. Ruth, can I ask you? You're Ruth.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Hi. Can I ask you? You were obviously too young for the Kerry babies.
Yeah.
So, can I ask when you found out about it, or would it have been this week even?
It was only this week, yeah. When I like 2 days ago, just when I got back, and I was listening to the news, and my mom was talking about it and stuff. But I don't know too much about it. But yeah, just this week.
So you would never
I-
be told that at school or anything like that, or
No.
You'd never heard of Joanne Hayes?
No. I
Did you
went
ever
and
hear? Yeah.
yeah, I was
Google?
googling her and everything. Yeah.
And did you ever hear of Anne Lovett?
No.
yeah.
No.
It's just extraordinary.
It's a real pity.
It's just the people just got whitewashed because it didn't suit.
Yeah.
Just awful. That's just awful. Awful. I'll tell you, the most shocking really thing in the outcome of Kerry babies is the tribunal. I think it was the Lynch Tribunal.
Mhm.
What they did to Joanne, it was just like they gave the dimensions of her vagina in a fucking tribunal. Excuse me, John. It's just awful. You know. And I remember one of the dialogues, and the judge said she had to go leave to gather herself, and apparently she could be heard vomiting out in the hallway, and they sedated her and brought her back in to be questioned again. And then somebody else said to me one time there was 42 men came down from Dublin to question her at the tribunal.
Yeah.
You know, psychiatrists, doctors.
Say they got their expenses.
nurses. Down there. I mean, can you imagine going into one of those today in Dublin? Can you imagine Noreen being asked tomorrow the size of her vagina?
I don't want to be that person asking that question.
Yeah, imagine they did that. They produced that as evidence in the tribunal
Yeah. God,
in front of her and her family.
My God.
Like, it's not 30 years ago. And, like the Equal Right Act, that was since I've been alive, you know? It's like, we haven't moved on at all. We just have not moved on, really. We haven't. Because you still have to sue for equal pay. My child here still doesn't have full free choice. Like, there's some gimp there in Galway, Ronan Mullen, a senator, and university graduates in this country vote him into the Senate, and he gets to say what he likes and puts a stop to my baby having free choice, about what she wants or needs to do. When you look back then and you look at now, I actually think we're going backwards.
In what respect?
In what way? That we know better. We know what we should be doing. We know what we were entitled to. We know how to communicate this. We know that we actually can't be treated like this. That we actually know our rights. We're more willing to flex them and challenge them, but it's got us nowhere. Really.
Ruth. Sorry, Ruth.
Yeah.
I kind of cut you off there. Do you want to add anything to what Vanessa said?
I don't know. I agree. Like, it's Ireland really hasn't changed in a long time, and I think women's rights are a huge issue in Ireland today, even today, which is really sad. Looking across the globe and seeing things that are in the paper and stuff that women have to fight for in this country, and the arguments against it are shocking, and it's like it's a joke. Like, it's laughable. And even looking at comments on the Irish Times and stuff on when I'm online, like it's crazy. I feel like I'm reading I feel like they're fake comments, and it's people from Ireland who still have views that are like, I'm really open to everyone's views and will still sit down and listen, but it's like not with the times, and it's just crazy. It blows my mind.
Compared to Canada?
I think a lot everywhere. Like, Ireland is this amazing country and like with the times, but it's not. Like, women's right, it's just women don't have as many rights as we think we do in this country.
Vanessa, can I ask a controversial question? Do you think you're well served by the female leaders in Ireland?
Well, who are the female leaders in Ireland?
Well, the women in positions of power.
Who are they?
Well, I was going to mention Noreen, but it's no longer there. But Frances Fitzgerald, Joan Burton, back in the day. They're the lawmakers. You've got Susan Denham, Catherine McGuinness, Catherine Sapone.
Harry Keane.
They're all pretty much public servants.
Yeah, I'd give you probably a better list if I had a bit. But do you feel that that the women politicians then are doing enough for women's equality?
That's a hard question for me to answer, John, because I think that this gender quota has clouded a lot of it by forcing the introduction of female candidates onto tickets and things like that. I'm not a fan of gender quotas myself. If you're good enough to do the job or get the job, that's all. That's the way it should be. Because I feel that there's I don't think politics has been served well with this gender quota. What you need to do is just make it more attractive for women to consider it as a career, politics.
Okay.
And most women don't go into the professions thinking they want to be the greatest barrister, or they want to be a high court judge.
Yeah.
Or that certainly I'm the parent of a child, and I always tell her do dentistry. Oh no, do dent, that's what you want to do. And everyone says why? I says it's 9 to 5. You don't have to fight it out with the lads for the consultants posts, and it's and you get it to get no dispute over the same pay as the male dentists. And you just have to make these roles more attractive to attract the best, to attract good candidates. If you look at politics today, you're not getting the best candidates out there.
Okay.
I think there's far more qualified people.
Is it enough though for it to be a woman? Like Maureen from Feminists was above criticism. Frances too, and many women in positions who.
Well, I suppose
I don't know if that's true about Frances or Nora. I don't think they were. I'd never heard anyone online anyway. I'd never really seen anything specific about any criticism leveled at them.
Well, for instance, you've got Terry Prone, Noreen O'Sullivan. They would be at all these, empowering women and.
Yeah, you see,
breakfast and everybody, like you'll see the Twitter feeds and be like, so inspirational. Oh my God, how did she do it? And is it simply just on the basis that this woman has got to this position, or and then the rest doesn't matter, that her behavior can be contemptible?
I don't know. I've never engaged in any of these women's network groups or women's only groups myself.
Did you say hello to Olga, by the way? She's just.
We were waiting.
Olga's right, but we can't hear you, Olga, because your mic is.
Hi, John. Sorry, yeah.
Hello.
Olga, you didn't get the shift tonight. John was filming the
No
same.
shift tonight. No shift tonight.
Well, we're delighted to hear it might have escalated from just the shift. So he said you were in bed.
Olga, do you want to add anything to?
Yeah, no, I think I get what you're suggesting, John, or you're maybe trying to tease out. But yeah, I think that there perhaps might be a confusion that just because someone is a woman in a position, then they deserve, or they're not that they deserve, but maybe they can't be criticized, maybe, or something, and it possibly is misplaced. And then also, if you do criticize them, you could possibly be open to being criticized, to being anti-woman. So there's that other side to it.
Yeah. I mean, Rona Hulman. There's so many of these instances over the last year or two that I can think of that has made it kind of impossible to really get a proper picture. For instance, Noreen, if she had been a man, I think would have resigned months earlier than she did. It was like, wow, why is she still there? It's
well, her predecessor was a man, and he didn't resign as early as he should have.
He quit. He didn't want to resign at all. But then again, Noreen might have been a commissioner a lot earlier.
Yeah, but
it was a woman that forced two of them out, wasn't it? Jim O'Doherty and Claire Daly, really. So,
but what I would say though is that okay, once they've got into this position, they're protected in a way that maybe a man wouldn't be, you know, because it's optics and stuff like that as well. Where play, I think, during.
I've never felt that myself. Now, if I'm being perfectly truthful now about it, but at the same time, I would be quite offended by that. And I'm a working woman who's gone through the professions. You know, I would be very offended by that.
By what?
That the people weren't as critical just because she was a woman, or she was protected because she was a woman in high office.
Well,
and you know, one of the judges I appear, two of the main judges I appear in front of all the time, and one of the county registers, they're all women, and I think they would have a stroke to hear that if they weren't doing their job, she was left there because she was a woman.
yeah.
I don't think. Well, I won't mention any names, but I don't think they'd take too kindly to that now, and I wouldn't like it either.
Well, speaking of a famous Irish woman who died this week, Dolores O'Riordan, Johnny, you wanted to have a chat about that. I know, Vanessa, you knew Dolores back in the day. But Johnny, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
100% now. You said that last week.
No, the sound is great.
I was trying to come in with quips and comments, and I realized that no one heard them, and it sounded really bad. And I know I frustrated Vanessa.
Do you know?
And rightly so. If my connection isn't clear,
yeah.
My position here is redundant.
You look like a chopper pilot there, Johnny.
Yeah, just thinking that.
Formula One.
Aer Lingus Flight 123 is coming into land.
30 Eccleston.
I'm glad it was just your mic, because we thought it was you were just being obnoxious. But I'm joking.
I'm that as well. Oh yeah. No, John, you will know when I'm obnoxious. Trust me.
So you weren't obnoxious then?
No, I was fighting my corner. I think there was two of us in it, Vanessa, wasn't it? No.
Yeah, it was the mic. It was seriously the mic issue.
I definitely wasn't obnoxious. No, and if you feel that, I'm very sorry that you did feel that, but that wasn't.
No. I was only. Yeah, don't mind me, Johnny. Please.
Yeah. No, I know. No, trust me, I don't take offense easily. So as I say, I don't really know
Yes,
what the innuendo is. No, John, I don't. I just don't understand innuendo.
How dare you? You take offense.
Give me an example.
Well, look, what's just happened?
Happened. You think I'm offended now? Do you?
I was being. You weren't obnoxious. You were being feisty, but it was impossible to hear you because of the mic. And I was only joking with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I made a big effort to get the right headgear and mic this time around, so they wouldn't have that problem.
It's impressive kit, Johnny. I'd say it's impressive.
Thanks, Neil. And you'd know. You have the best in technology. Thanks.
Okay, Johnny.
That means a lot. Yeah. The sad news about Dolores O'Riordan. I'd just like to say before that, it was unbelievable. If I can just briefly side story. Well, not a side story, but there was a massive story there last weekend. Guy I know, Richie Sheehy.
The Liverpool fan.
Yeah. That was absolutely unbelievable. He was he's a comedian, so he was doing a video, and next thing he just thought of something in between. Sorry, my phone's going mental here. All my fans. And he thought of an idea last Tuesday, not this Tuesday, last Tuesday week. And he put it up online. It was a song in relation to Liverpool players. I don't know if anyone's a football fan, but it was a nice little ditty about 3 players. And it just went, basically 2 days, he had over 5 million hits. So I was following his progress, and it came to the point where he had actually mentioned 3 players in the song, and he was being brought over to Anfield, pampered, and he was on Soccer AM, all the big sport channels. Not many Irish ones. The BBC and Sky Sports were mad about him, and the Liverpool fans, obviously. So millions around the world. So he then said in an interview underneath this pseudonym, which is Kevin Murphy, or alter ego, I said it would be great if Salah, who is his favorite player, scored the winner. and the three boys mentioned in the song scored. It was unbelievable. I was listening to it in a pub in Kilkenny with a real loud sound system to make sure that I heard the song, and then I heard nothing in the first half. And 10 minutes into the second half, they started singing his song. That was his dream, that they would start singing his song. Within a week, that happened. And within 10 minutes of the song being sang, the three players scored a goal each. Now, I don't know. I don't believe in miracles or moving statues or any of that stuff, but this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. So I was really excited about that, and I thought it was brilliant. And I was following the aftermath, and then he's going over to meet the Liverpool players in a fortnight time. And I know Richie 7 years. I met him when I was touring with Howard Marks.
Johnny, can I ask you?
It's on in UCC.
He's not.
Sorry,
he does a Cork. He does it as a Cork guy, but he's not Cork, is he? He's not like Langer accent. He's like his accent. Well, you know, I mean,
he's got a lovely soft Cork accent. Yeah,
but he's got a comedy one on. He's got a comedy Cork accent on the show.
He speaks proper like.
That's his alter ego, John. Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah,
Murphy.
Exactly. That's what I.
Yeah. So he's got. I don't know Cork accents. I don't pretend to, but he's got a nice soft one, and I think the one that he puts on is kind of Mayfield Knocknaheeny. Is that right? Olga, Vanessa, you probably know more now about accents in Cork than me. Than I pretend to.
Mayfield.
Mayfield.
Roy Keane's area.
Right, north side.
Yeah.
Presumably, yeah. Olga, no.
Okay.
Your mic is off.
It sounds just like a Cork City accent.
Cork City, yeah. Sorry, John, I was just doing the papers there.
Okay, it's just a regular Cork City accent then.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, it wasn't really that strong an accent, by the way. So your friend Kevin mustn't be from there. He must be from, Rochestown Road or something.
From Montenotte, is he?
No, I don't want to get into that kind of. But I think it's just amazing that one guy had a dream and he did that, and that's people power. That's what I'm always talking about, the greatness of people. And you talk about football fans; they're a little bit racist, they're a little bit misogynist. No. Like the real core football fan says this is a beautiful song, and if you actually look at it, the guy Salah is a Muslim from Egypt. His name is Mohammed Salah. So if you talk about, racism in football and everyone's singing this guy's song, and the knock-on effect, like, it's just powerful. But what I'm saying is, because I know Richie personally, I felt a sense of pride as well. So I was high as a kite on his success on Monday, and then Dolores O'Riordan died. You couldn't have had just a bigger come down. It was absolutely devastating. So and that's what you wanted to talk about initially.
Well,
so
no.
Saying,
but
it's been a very emotional week for me, and I love Dolores O'Riordan. I thought she was brilliant.
Well, I think I think Dolores would have.
Oh, sorry, Vanessa.
Sorry, John. I think Dolores would have got a huge kick out of Kevin's little thing on. I think even on Soccer AM, singing Soccer AM. Brilliant.
And was he live in the studio, Johnny? Just
he was like in the fan zone.
No. Brilliant. Well, we got to.
It's a shame. Helen Chamberlain has gone from the show, because I'd say she'd have totally gone to town with us. Yeah. Well, anyway.
She's left the show now, has she, Helen?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
She was 50 as well last year, John.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Johnny.
Richie, he's got what I was really excited about was what he has coming next. We were talking about it there before Christmas, and it's unbelievable. So right in the middle of that, he just happened to this song, because he's a parody songwriter and a satirist and a comedian. He's always conjuring up ideas, but this one, because you're continuously getting inside your comedy kind of mind, and this is like anything. If you open your mind up to anything, ideas will come in that way, I think. But Richie has just a really sharp wit, and it's a Cork thing as well, I think. He was able to think of this because he's a big Liverpool fan as well, obviously. So he was able to think of this instantly, and he just said he'd put it out. And once again, the power. But what he has coming next, it's teed up nicely that this character he has, Kevin Murphy, is a lovely kind of, innocent but passionate kind of guy. So I am personally trending Kevin Murphy for president, because why not?
Why not? Yeah, and. Vanessa, can you vouch? Is this a good Cork ambassador?
Oh yeah. I could be his first lady.
Well, this is it.
Or Olga's from Middleton.
Thanks, John.
So
Keep it in the
you
count.
could be in there as well. You might get a.
No, another shift.
Yeah, thanks, Neil.
And then there's
Embarrassing at all.
Can you say Bjorn in 2018?
Can you say which?
I'm sure you
Bjorn.
can.
Dior.
That's a Bjorn. Isn't that a Cork term for ladies?
which
Yes.
Bjorn.
Yeah.
Dior.
Bjorn.
Bjorn.
Bjor in Cork.
Your.
Bjor. Like
Can you spell that, Johnny?
I can't actually. B-O-E-R, Olga, no?
B-E-O-R, I think. Bjor.
B-E-R,
Yeah.
It's an affectionate term for women in Cork.
like a crashing Bjor.
I'm not sure it's used much anymore. Bjorn Fiend. Fiend would be male.
Oh yeah. All right, get you
It's
now.
a long time
But you know, there's also Tommy O'Leary's on Dancing with the Stars. He's from Middleton, isn't he?
Is he?
Is he?
Is he not from there? Is he Yawn? Because his dad was Yawn.
I don't know.
Tommy, is he a Ga fella?
I don't know.
But you know what, lads? You know what? You're absolute scream. You're great at telling us everything that's wrong with the GAA. And something that goes from the GAA, right, from Croke Park, he's the last Park. To go to professional rugby, to the Lions,
Okay.
come back to play club for his club.
Okay.
I know the guy you're talking about now. I just genuinely don't know.
Lads, you've just completely now been busted. Busted.
I just don't have an interest.
I just don't think he can cha-cha-cha, you know? I mean, that's all, Vanessa.
But sure, can anyone who what's your cha-cha-cha like, John?
It's a little bit better than his.
Can Marty cha-cha-cha.
GAA. Dolores O'Riordan.
Sorry, Dolores.
That's okay. Ruth,
I know she'd have laughed.
Ruth, if anything, Dolores was bigger in North America than she was in Europe. I think they were absolutely
Jason,
huge.
Yeah, Jason was obsessed with her. He really fancied her. My husband Jason, and all his friends all said, and I was, when they were huge, I was really young, and I think it's really sad, but I can't say too much because I only know their popular songs. So
this is a thing.
There's a lot.
I was never a big Cranberries fan. I have a problem with singing where you can hear the person's accent when they sing. I just never appealed to me. But
I like that.
An insensitive American.
No, but I think it worked with most of the Cranberries songs at the time. It definitely worked. Yeah. And when
in America they wouldn't know that kind of accent. They wouldn't be familiar with it. It seems so new.
No, but when I think it was the Letterman show was the big break she got. Elvis Costello was supposed to be there, and I know this quite well because I had tickets for the Letterman show, and I had got them thinking I was going to be in New York at the time, and my sister ended up going, and Elvis Costello was supposed to be there, but he got caught in bad weather in Heathrow. But Dolores was there. Cranberries were supporting Duran Duran, so she got the gig. They were in New York. I don't know how it happened. And then, because then when my sister's tickets got to use the tickets, she actually got to see Elvis Costello. So they found out that's how I got to the bottom of that story. But then she went on to Letterman and did Zombie, I think. Oh, yeah. And that was it. And within a week, they Spandau were supporting them instead of the other way around. And it just went from there. It just exploded overnight for them. But they had put in the years of graft on the college circuit, particularly in the UK, because I remember the last time I saw her might have been around 91, 92, could have been 93 in the Hard Rock Cafe, and her voice was gone. And they were gigging 4 or 5 nights a week up and down England and the college circuit.
Yeah.
And I think they only did 1 or 2 gigs here that year. It was just all over the UK. Yeah, they were very much an indie band then, and then when they broke America, they became rock stars.
Yeah, but the thing about the Cranberries were that they weren't nurtured in the Irish rock scene. I mean, Hot Press
No.
had them on
Well, you see, there was a bit of a rock scene between Cork and Limerick then, around 86, 87, 88. Maybe, there was like Cypress Mine, Burning Embers. And then there was quite a few acts from Limerick as well, and they tic-tac over and back.
Stump as well.
Stump, will they be Cork now? Don't we give them to the Limerick round? Yeah.
They're fantastic.
You're bringing back all these memories. This is one of the great things about the 80s. We told these bands on our doorstep. I can't think, there was a good few Limerick bands around that same time as well, and there was a scene there just between them, and they'd go over and back. The Waterford was always a great venue. They go Waterford, Henry's, Henry's in Cork. So there was a scene already there. And in fact, Dolores wasn't the original lead singer with Cranberries.
Wasn't she? No.
No. In fact, the band were originally the Cranberry Sauce, I think it was Sauce, and then they put out a record and they had to change the name to Sauce, I think. So there's some story about that that's sort of been lost in the many bedsit nights and
yeah. It was an incredible night.
Back of vans.
It must have been an amazing night at our very moving in so many different ways at the Shane MacGowan's 60th concert in the National Concert Hall.
Yeah, I wonder, did they ever sing together? Because her voice is very like Dolores O'Riordan's.
Yeah, but no, I don't think
very
so.
Similar.
Again, Dolores is, that band were kind of separate from the.
But
Irish.
honestly, once Dolores got married, that relationship with sort of non-muso people just didn't. I don't think she. Open to correction, of course, but because I haven't known anything about her life the last 25 years. So
okay, he was the tour manager with Duran Duran, so they obviously met around that time when you.
Oh yeah, it was Duran Duran they were supporting. That's band. They both look the same to me.
Yeah, you're mixing up your new romantic.
Yeah, well,
Marcel,
it's easily done.
Marcel, were you familiar with the Cranberries, Linger, and?
I was familiar about a gazillion times with Zombie, of course, because that was really done to death in the indie discos that I would go to as a teen in the early 90s in Germany. But on a side note, it was one of the first songs that made me find out more about the Troubles and the Easter Rising because of the lyrics. So that was coming from a metal scene where everything is really just escapism and swords and dragons and so on, and that was like one of the first political songs that I engaged with, that I remember. So
amazing. Yeah.
I'll have to teach you the Comanche Black and Tans in a minute, Marcel. The next night out we have.
I don't think. Yeah, sorry.
I should say, just out of curiosity, just as a quiz as such, with the exception of Zombie and Linger, how many other cranberry songs can you name off the top of your head?
Well, here's the thing,
To My Family, Salvation, the whole album of Dreams.
Johnny saved the day. Johnny saved the day.
I think Johnny.
Well, they had eight albums between 1993 and 2001. Like,
did they really? Yeah.
Or no, they had 5, and they were signed up for 6. So when a record company as big as Island signs you up, you really have to be good, first of all, in relation to being able to reimpence your down payment, and so you're kind of a slave to the record company, but. They were never a slave, in relation to, we need albums. They didn't write anything, and she was co-writer. She wrote most of the lyrics. But Hogan, what's his name?
No,
yeah. The guitarist, he was co-writer, and he would have put down the melody, which is probably the hardest part of a song. And then, the music was just really. They were head and shoulders above anything in Ireland.
Did
they weren't just signed? Sorry.
Did she not do Ave Maria or something with Pavarotti?
Yeah,
She did,
yeah.
Yeah.
Like she was a soloist
she
in a
was-
choir in Ballybricken in Limerick. She was big into church choirs.
Yeah.
And then she sang with Pavarotti in Italy
Yeah.
in an amphitheater. You know, and all her songs were very much about dreams and potential, but also there was an undercurrent darkness that was quintessentially Irish. And I actually really liked her voice. That was one thing I was really proud of, that she actually sang in her own native accent. And most people around the world seem to love the Irish brogue, but in Ireland we have to sound American for some reason.
Yeah.
So that was really powerful, that she was
Very.
able to conquer the world with her voice, and she came from rural Ireland. That was really, really important in relation to being from rural Ireland, that to see someone like her that can dominate the world by what she sounds like.
There was a feeling that we'd underrated.
Powerful.
Yeah, there was a feeling that the country had underrated her. Really, there was a sadness on that front too.
Well, you
The nation
see,
begrudges, John.
no, Johnny, stop that. You see, they were much bigger. They were much bigger in America, you know, than they were here. You know, because they didn't do the big sellout concerts here because they just didn't tour here. You know, I'd say if they did come and do a gig here, it would have sold out. They could easily have done the RDS.
Ireland's a small market though as well.
So, and it is a very small. They just did not do their big shows here, Johnny. So, and she was hugely respected here.
Yeah, no.
And do you know what, Johnny? She has always been recorded as the most successful Irish female songwriter and artist of all time, both commercially and artistically. And so, they're not all begrudges. You know,
I didn't say that.
Different market here.
I didn't make that point, so don't try to put me in a box of what I said. Like, that was a generalization. I didn't specifically say that. Okay, so everyone knows that in general, Irish people are a little bit begrudgery. Now that's just a known kind of understanding. Yeah, I'm not saying anything other than that.
Okay.
I'm saying in relation to.
It's the second bottle. for Vanessa. Okay.
No, it's the first one. I wasn't going to open it, but now here.
You see, that's begrudgery there.
Okay. Should we have a look at tomorrow's papers? Would they be up there?
Do you want me to do the techie thing and share it on the screen so that Olga doesn't have to keep talking all the time?
He has to show off in front of us.
I want to show up the technology. Eat your heart out. CES.
Do I need to do anything? No.
I'll share it and you can get talking. So
okay.
Olga, you need to discuss the stories that are on the covers.
Yes, thanks, John. As soon as they're shared. So you're sharing it there, Neil?
Yeah, we're in the process of being shared.
Oh, sorry. So the main story in Examiner.
Tonight. You know,
sorry, John. What?
I'm trying to hype up the.
Oh, sorry. So Micheál Martin from Fianna Fáil has now backed.
Oh, it's on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're taking sides now in Fianna Fáil.
Yeah. So he's come out and he's sorry. So am I in? Sorry to go on, but am I in control of showing what's on? Or are you scrolling through it, Neil? Sorry.
I'm your PA here. So you just talk and I'll follow.
Okay. So if we just go up to the Times edition.
The Times. I think you said the Examiner. Sorry.
Sorry, that was my fault. I did say the Examiner. But yeah, so the Times there at the top, Ellen Coyne, Micheál Martin is back repealing the 8th Amendment and allowing free access to abortion for all women up to 12 weeks. In doing so, he became the first Fianna Fáil leader to back deleting the constitutional ban on abortion and allowing legal access for all women. So that just happened this afternoon in the Dáil. So that was quite. There
was some powerful speeches in the Dáil today. I mean, Martin was very explicit on his about turn, and I suppose we could get into the semantics of why he did that, whether it is sincere or not. But Kate O'Connell in the Dáil today was on fire. She really shot from the hip. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up listening to her talking the Dáil today. It was great.
Do you know what? We're going to see some brilliant performances now coming up.
Well, to be fair, to be fair to her, she's always been quite vocal about her view, and even in the early days, she's always been. I can remember interviews with her on News Talk where she stated her position. So no, hats off to her. It was one of the best speeches we've heard in the Dáil in a long time.
She's extremely articulate. I think it's been really obvious the last couple of months, actually, Kate O'Connell.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah,
we need that.
There's a bit there at the top, the hypocrisy of leaving Zibo out of Ireland squad. I know nothing about that, unless you guys want to talk about it. Levy plan to tackle home crisis in disarray. Few councils register vacant sites before deadline, so it's a story by Peter Dwyer. Government plans to tackle the housing crisis by imposing a levy on vacant sites are in tatters after less than a third of the country's local authorities registered them in time for the charge to be applied next year.
Did I not write about that in the budget?
Did you?
About it being a waste of time, the vacant levy site.
Oh. Well, it says it. Well, you're right, because it says
the vacant site levy.
The much vaunted levy that government ministers claimed would help to stop developers hoarding land can be applied by at most 9 of the country's local authorities in 2019, the first year in which the levy can be charged. So yeah, that doesn't seem like that's ever possibly going to take off. And then there on the right, bank chief vows tracker cash return by June, again by Peter Dwyer. Every customer affected by the tracker mortgage scandal is expected to have been given their money back and compensated by the banks by the end of June, according to Philip Lane, the governor of the central bank. So that's Philip Lane said that it was the bank's firm guidance that all lenders would have paid redress and compensation to the 26,600 affected customers identified. So is it 13.5? It's saying here that 13,500 have received 316 million euros so far in redress and compensation. Like more than 13,000 people or customers have yet to be paid. So there's that. And then the Examiner, again, Martin backs repeal of law on abortion. Varadkar now under mounting pressure to reveal view on abortion. So that's by Elaine Loughlin and Fiachra O'Connor. So now they're taking the line that now Leo Varadkar, because of what Micheál Martin has come out and said, it's now up to the Taoiseach to reveal his views. Let me see if there's anything there. Who puts considerable pressure or strain on Leo Varadkar, with several Fine Gael members last night voicing frustration at the lack of clarity from the Taoiseach. Spokesman for Mr. Varadkar reiterated that his position remains as outlined on Wednesday, when he said he would need to see the wording of the referendum in black and white before he makes any public utterances. And then on the right there, 240 homeowners told to pay 2.25 million for defects by Michael Clifford. Up to 240 homeowners and investors in County Clare estate have been told to find 2.25 million to pay for fire safety and other defects in their faces or in their homes or face evacuation. So this is the Brú na Honna estate in Shannon. So there were defects found by engineers there, and the fire officer of Clare County Council got involved last November and has set out a schedule of work to be started in March. I think Mick Clifford has written several stories. He's written several stories about properties that have been built with defects, like the kind of Priory Hall stuff.
Priory Hall, yeah.
Yeah, there's that big one in Sandyford, the Beacon, and there was the issues with the flood damage, and then through that it came out there was some fire issues there, and that's where I think it's the Ed Jones property there, and there was a residents meeting some time ago, one of the early ones, and there was fisticuffs and everything. They had to break it up because a lot of people had bought to invest there, and the owners didn't see eye to eye, and then a vote was put. There was a lot of pressure put on people to vote that the owners pay. I mean, if they're not even able to collect all the management fees, I don't know how they're expecting to collect all of these bills for these defects. So. Yeah. It's kind of like when Priory Hall and that happens, the government were able to assist there, but the government can't assist them all. So no doubt we're going to see more of these.
Yeah, and I guess that's why they probably dragged their heels on that, right? Because it was a case of setting a precedent so early, and they probably knew there was going to be more coming down the tracks. I'm guessing, Yeah, in that story, there was Michael Clifford talk. Sorry, Neil, to speak over you, but he just speaks to one guy, Rabel Hendoy. That's his picture there. So he finalised the purchase of his 3-bedroom duplex on December 19th, the day before most of the other homeowners were officially told of the problem. Ouch. He'd rented there for 5 years beforehand with his wife and 2 kids before buying it.
Okay.
But does the article say, does it say he actually knew about the defects before he closed on the property,
it seemed, no, I don't think it actually says that explicitly. Made the final payment on December 8th and signed the last contract on 19th. When I brought it up, they say that I was living here before and I know what the problem is, but nobody ever told me. So he's saying that he didn't.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the first time they were officially told was the 18th of December. So.
Okay. We've got the Examiner. You've gone through the Times of Ireland. Have you the Irish edition?
Yeah. So John, it was just the top bit there is about the Micheál Martin's view on abortion. He's come out and said that he wants to allow it for access for all women up to 12 weeks. And then it's just this levy plan to tackle home crime, the vacant property levy. So it seems like it's not going to work, maybe, because according to Peter Dwyer, by 2019, the first year when it can be charged, only 9 of the country's local authorities will be able to kind of enforce it. So, so next year.
Rory Hearn has written brilliantly at Honey Groves, and Martin McMahon interviewed Mel Reynolds.
Yeah, I must listen to that. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. It was great. I bet it was.
Well, to come up with sort of ideas, and Michael Taft as well, who does a column on Tuesdays on the site, has written about sort of a co-op idea, but to see words like disarray, Vanessa, what are we going to do?
Sorry.
Sorry, okay, go on.
No, I was just going to say just one other story just before I just forget it, just on the Examiner.
Please.
Just there, a tiny story on the left and the bottom, and it says, TD leave the Hayes family alone. So obviously Joanne Hayes, or Joanne Hayes rather. So a politician close to the Hayes family at the centre of the Kerry babies controversy has said any potential fresh probe into how Gardaí obtained signed statements about what happened should only take place if it leaves the family alone. Fianna Fáil TD John Brazel said Joanne Hayes and her family must not be subjected to further interrogation over the trauma they suffered. I think that's quite interesting, because I think a lot of people are wondering why that happened this week. But before we leave the papers.
Yeah, is he speaking on behalf of the family, or is he just a conservative?
A politician close to the family, so it kind of seems like he is.
Okay. Marcel, I wanted to ask you, we cover housing probably every week. Housing and the guards are our biggest kind of
track of mortgages.
The track of mortgages, but the housing situation in Ireland is getting worse. What would you suggest, Marcel?
I was thinking about, I wrote a piece for a Dutch website about the homeless families and the incredible amount of homeless families we have here, and it's really, it just needs to be like a proper plan and not just like this whitewashing that's being done by the government at the moment. And I think we had a really good piece on the page about the statements that the Minister of Housing made about the fantastic achievements they had made in the last year when they hadn't done anything really. And it's, I think that would be the first step, like acknowledging that we have a problem, and not saying no, it's all grand, you know, as long as the economy is booming. I think that would be like the first, acknowledging the whole thing, and not saying, look, it's grand, you just need to buy houses for more money. That's not how it works. So and then just have like a proper social housing plan, and not, you know, like these family hubs and these things that sound nice, but on the paper, but I don't think it's working at the moment. So that would be the first thing.
And a rent freeze, Olga, are you?
Yeah, I mean, like it's obviously like a supply and demand nightmare, you know. So, but I think like I'm not
There's
I
no
don't feel
supply. There's no supply. The rents are exorbitant.
outrageous.
Gas are
Yeah, but you know, the what you're seeing now is the crystallization of the last government doing nothing about the sort of rapid growth of Dublin. It was happening, you know, then. And like I remember 5 years ago listening to reports about the shortage of office space in Dublin
Yeah.
because companies wanted them, and then companies want them, they need employees. Employees need to move into Dublin. And you can see it. I think I've said it for the last 2 years. There's Dublin and there's not Dublin now. And we have to get serious. You want to talk about housing, you have to really look at moving an enormous amount of activity outside Dublin. Unless you're prepared to start going up to 20 floors in Dublin, you're going to have to start looking outside Dublin and look at re-urbanizing huge parts of the country, because the amount of towns, like good towns, you know, with solid infrastructures, ready-made schools, you know, houses, transport links, that have just been neglected over the last 15, 20 years. It's time to start looking at re-urbanizing Ireland, and just not just Dublin and Cork.
Yeah.
That's my view. I don't think you're going to solve it in Dublin. Dublin's like Tokyo. 10 years' time, Dublin will be like a Western Tokyo. There'll be just people working in Dublin Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, Friday nights, or maybe Monday nights, and then going back to Carlow or going back to, you know, Leitrim.
Tokyo has a fantastic transport infrastructure, though, which makes it a little bit easier to manage. I'm sorry, Vanessa, to interrupt.
Well, it's very expensive, though.
It is very expensive. But tangentially, just on a tangent, I got the Lewis Green line cross city for the first time.
Oh.
And you jump on now. I live on the extended line out in Dublin 18 Crumlin, and so you know, when the Lewis was extended on the Green Line, originally the stop was Sandyford, and then they built the extension on down the Cherrywood direction. But it's like the Dublin bus days. I don't know if any of you remember any of the bus routes the very rare bus routes that used to cross the city. They used to cross the Liffey rather than terminate in town, and they'd do this changeover in, say, the Cabra or the Phibsborough area, wherever that bus garage is. And the drivers will be outside having a smoke, yapping to each other, and you're sitting on the bus for 10 minutes waiting for them to get on. That kind of happens on the Lewis. They don't have the smoke. They get on if they're there, but sometimes the Lewis will stop in Sandyford. The driver gets off. Another driver gets on, continues to wait. But anyway, I naively got on. I was going over DNS. I was going over the north side, and I thought I'd be able to stay on the Lewis until the kind of Parnell area. And yeah, I could stay on the Lewis. It took about 3 years to get across the actual Liffey and up O'Connell Street.
Oh, does it?
But then I was saying, God, it's great. You can go out to Boombridge, because you know no one had ever heard of Boombridge until they put a bloody train station there. But the same thing again. The Lewis lady comes on and says, "Listen, lads, if you're looking to go to Boombridge, get the feck off this and jump on another one." So it's the one line, but you technically, you know, have to get two Lewises to go along the one line. So
yeah,
you know, it's not really that seamless. It's really not that seamless. It's great. Like it's great in one regard.
It didn't feel. You didn't feel like you were traversing the city.
No, I felt I was being shafted because it was piss and rain as well. So like, there's not even a shelter in the bloody. Well, there is a shelter, but there's not. It's, you know, you feel like you're being shafted a bit. It feels unfair to call it the one line. You can't put the color green on the whole line if you have to get off the tram to get on another to go do your journey.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, it's just like a change at Mallow thing. Yeah.
Limerick Junction.
Ruth, could you and your husband afford to live in Dublin?
Well, we live in one of the most expensive cities in the world.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's Vancouver is on it. The cheapest house you can buy in Vancouver is $1.2 million. And rent is like pretty like everyone complains about rent there, but it's not as crazy as it is here, but everything's high rise. And it's all foreign investors. So it's a lot of investors from China, and they're coming in, and we actually tried to get an apartment, and young people can't buy houses there or apartments there because they're either too expensive, or there's foreign investors coming in that just basically want to buy it and rent it out and flip it. So
same
here.
Yeah,
same poo, different city.
Yeah, pretty much. There's a house that's like we rent a little laneway house. It's like a granny flat basically in someone's garden, but it's your own house, and it's great. We love it. But one of the houses on that street went for 4.8 million, and it's insane.
Yeah.
Dollars.
Yeah, with Canadian dollars, so it's less in euro, but it's still like probably about under
still
4,
7
just under
figures.
4. It's still, yeah.
Marcel, can you afford to buy here?
No.
Well, after the book you published, I'm sure you can afford to buy plenty of houses.
Yeah. We will have a talk about publishing and money in publishing.
Somebody's going to buy the movie rights and change your life.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about you on the entertainment slot one of these days, Marcel.
Yeah, I know.
Do you believe in rent freezes, Marcel?
Definitely. And the thing is, in Germany, and I hate to bring that example because Germany is fantastic and efficient and everything, but the thing is they have a thing, it's literally translated, it's the rent mirror. So it looks at all the rents throughout Germany, and depending on the city you're in, the landlords are not allowed to raise the rent 2% above that national average. So they try to in a way control the market a bit from the top down, and that helps.
That sounds like a very civilized way to manage a national rental.
Yeah, but the thing is, in
policy.
Germany, people don't buy. That's the thing. It's like you would wait until you're 40 or 45, so you don't buy a house when you're 25. You know that you're going to rent out for the next 15 years. That's the difference.
Yeah,
So,
But is it fair to argue though? Like when Marcel, you'll know better than us what German market looks like compared to Ireland. But if you introduce rent controls in a market that's starved of supply, I mean, you have to look at the reasons why we're starved of supply. And Ruth mentions investors buying property up in Canada because it's equitable to do that and rent out properties. But if you introduce rent controls, and people aren't going to get into the buy-to-let market if there's restrictions there as to what they can charge. And I'm not saying that as a pro-landlord thing. But it just kind of compounds. It might have a short-term benefit that we all feel that, yay, my rent's not going up. But the long-term impact is there's still that starvation of supply, which doesn't benefit anyone.
and that's the difference anyway, because in Germany you've got 80 million people and like a vast country, so and especially in like the big urban areas in the West, it wouldn't matter if you live in Cologne or Düsseldorf or Essen or whatsoever. So you have the same kind of infrastructure, you have the same kind of setup. Even if you have to commute, like the infrastructure is there, and that's completely different to here. And I think rent controls here would have made sense, like maybe 2008 after the crash, just to avoid the same thing that we're seeing now happen again. But now they wouldn't make no sense at all, just because, as you said, there is no supply. So literally, I think the only thing that would help is like put a freeze in on investors buying property in bulks, and then build social housing first, full stop, for the next 2 years, and then open the market again. Maybe something like this.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if there's statistics around in Ireland, what percentage of landlords are accidental landlords or temporary landlords, maybe, where there's a bereavement of an old person and their family rented out temporarily, versus people who are genuine investors. It would be interesting to see statistics around that.
There's no security if the landlord can just raise the rent so much, there's no security at all for anybody.
No, I mean, we don't have a rental market that caters for long-term rentals, which is not good. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to butt in either. I think you'll see more long-term rentals outside of Dublin now. Whereas in Dublin, you're only ever going to see annual leases or short-term leases.
But I think that's also part of the crisis at the moment, because the thing is, if you don't have a car and you have to rely on public transport, i.e. buses in Ireland, So let's imagine you're a single mother with the kid, and you work as a waitress. So, and you can't afford anything between Dublin 1 and I don't know, 15.
Yeah.
So you have to go out to the sticks.
It's crumbling.
Yeah. And you might have a bus like twice a day or something. So you won't be able to get to work from there anyway. So I think that's another issue. So where do these people go that are being pushed out from the urban centers because the rents are so high? They can only go like to the outskirts where there is no infrastructure to get them anywhere to earn money. And then you get people out on the streets because they can't afford anything. So,
Neil?
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, if you look at the commuter towns with Dublin, so the likes of, say, Newbridge, Naas, places like that, and Wicklow, if you look at the distances from, say, the city centre to those areas, it's quite a small distance, but the commute that people have, because most people are taking their car, because certainly, well, I know there's a train line in Kildare, but not all of the bordering counties have a train service that can accommodate. So if you look at the mileage distance and the commute time, and look at other cities like Vanessa mentioned, Tokyo, London, cities like that, where people are traveling a greater distance in the same amount of time. A cousin of ours, when he first moved to the UK, when he settled in the UK, he bought a place in Cambridge, and for a period he was commuting between Cambridge and London. And I don't know, that's maybe Dublin to Carlow or beyond, or even further. But the regular train service throughout the day, getting him in the same time that you would take you to drive from, drive from Naas to Dublin. So, 20 minutes. Well, depending on the traffic. I know it's changed now since the road's been widened, but again, there's that consideration as well. So that puts a further stress on people who can't afford in the city and have to live in these commuter towns. And you hear tales then of, again, been tuned into the stuff since my life changed a few 3 months ago, of people who are commuting for work and they're not seeing their children because they're getting up so early. The kids are still in bed, and then by the time they get home, it's time to put the kids to bed. And it has an effect on the mental health of the nation as well. So
yeah, but guys, that never made sense to me, buying the 3-bed semi down in Carlow and working in Dublin. That never made sense to me.
But you're an expert in your field who could see beyond what was pushed on the rest of us, which was buy feckin' property. You're mad not to buy that house in the middle of nowhere with no roads.
All right,
but that's still the mantra, isn't it? Just
you don't hear it bandied around so much, but it does look like we're teetering on a bubble again. When you look at what property prices have gone up 75% on average since 2013 in Ireland. It's not a bubble, lads.
I said this to you last year, Neil. You were kind of we're grand.
Well, I didn't think they were going to shoot up as much as they did, but yeah, now like where's it going to burst this time?
Well, no, it's just going to be all about Dublin. Of the next 5-10 years, it's just going to be Dublin, and it's the last government prepped you for that environment.
This is going to happen every 10 years for us, though. This chaos. It really has to be a kind of a radical thing. I mean, and it's no basis for an economy, like everybody living off
that bit of rent, like ducking and like running around picking up rent
for this basement there, and this Airbnb, and it's no way to have a house.
It's all it's a very sad way. It's this hand to mouth thing, and when you live in a major city is
so stressful.
Yeah, it's not a way to live.
I mean, if you look at the I see it on Reddit, particularly over the summertime, and you get parents who are sending their student kids to Ireland to study, and they've left it quite late to look at accommodation, and they're speaking in desperation, and of course all the trolls are like, well, this is Ireland, and people from all over the states who, California, there's high demand as well as high prices, but people are genuinely shocked. We're in a crisis state, and it's not being spoken about enough when it comes to property.
And that's the weird things. Like the government is pushing, like, it's fantastic. We get all these international people in who are going to work for the American companies who are based in Ireland. But where are they going to live? That's the things. Like when you are like let's assume it's the first job you have after college. So you're beginner level. You have an entry level kind of salary. So, but like I had a thing in Dublin, an event in November, and we met two people who were solicitors, who were partners in the company, and they're sharing a house. So like if these people have to share a house to live in Dublin city center, and they might earn like, I don't know, 75,000, 80,000, 90,000 euros a year. So and you have like a beginner salary of 23,000 euros. So where are you going to live? Like with 40 people in a bedsit in Crumlin? I don't know.
But you know, it's the norm in California. I see it in California, particularly in Silicon Valley. It's the norm that you get people who are in those, early stages of the career in house shares of 6, 7, 8 people. And there was one person that I met, and she was sharing a room with a guy, similar to the post that go up on the site. But it wasn't like an OMG, this is what I have to do. It was just accepted culture. And that's a bigger worry than, at least when the post go up on the site, there was genuine shock and reaction to some guy going, hey, I'm German and I'm looking for a lovely person to move in with me. But it's such accepted in the culture.
Yeah, Neil, and I don't know whether John's going to agree with this, but back in the day, if we were over in London or Boston, New York, just grafting for the few months, there could be 10, 15 people in between 2, 3 bedrooms. You just landed,
Well, perhaps. But
so it's
changed.
Not unusual for some of us.
Perhaps. And that was a different time for you guys, that was the free loving era. But then we can,
free loving. You couldn't have a slow dance without.
No, people would be getting pregnant from that now.
And in London in the 19th century, people were roped in basements in benches with 40 per bench. But that it still doesn't mean that this should be an acceptable standard.
Exactly.
I'm not saying it's acceptable, but I can see where Neil is able to say that it's not an OMG thing in some cities. And it wasn't an OMG thing here at one point either.
Yeah,
different times though. Different times. People weren't in career jobs earning a lot of money and having to do it back then. Perhaps.
That's true. But
could somebody tell me about the return of the bedsit? I thought.
I was just about to say that the bedsit. Why can't we have the bedsit?
Stuff that we get in is worse than any bedsit. So I don't understand. Is it just like you can't use the name bedsit, or?
Can I ask why did they get rid of bedsits?
But they haven't.
I mean, what I'm saying is, what is a bed? How do you define a bedsit? Surely these
horrible studio apartments that we're getting into the site like every day, they're bedsits, right?
Yeah, studio apartment is a bedsit.
So they haven't been what?
They've just renamed them.
They just renamed them, yeah.
So studio.
So when they say let's return it, let's bring back.
I think it has not got to do with legislation. Didn't they change the legislation to kind of? That's what happened, and now they're bringing back legislation to allow them. Wasn't that what it was? No.
But.
Yeah, but it is the naming of it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the whole flat apartment thing. Like apartment is purpose built, and I'd say a bedsit, a studio apartment or studio flat is perhaps purpose built versus a bedsit, which is someone annexes their spare room into it.
Can I give you my experience of looking at the ads 30 years ago? A bedsit was a room where it was all in one room, and you had a shared shower and a toilet at the top of the stairs, between 3 or 4 flats.
Yeah.
And that was a bedsit.
2-bar heater.
The 2-bar heater, yeah. And the little cooker. Do you understand with those little cookers and the 2 rings and sitting on top of a little fridge.
And a little bowl for your tears.
Happier times though, Vanessa. Go on, say it. It was happier times.
Yeah. I actually remember 6 or 7 of us in there in a bed sitting at Mines one night. But come here, singing rebel songs. That's what it was. That's a bed sit. The studio then was when you had your own. It was just all in one room, but in the corner was a little curtain, and behind that was a shower and a toilet.
In the studio.
Yeah.
And then bedsit had a separate bathroom, like it was in the hall or downstairs or something. Yeah, okay.
And then a flat was, you just had everything in. You might have a kitchen dining room or kitchen living room and a separate bedroom. That was flat. That meant you'd gotten a promotion or, you know, something like that. But there was the apartments then were the ones that you actually owned, you know, that you weren't renting. It was an apartment, purpose-built block. That's what I was groomed on anyway.
And Neil, you bought the house that you're in now, did you?
No, I'm renting the house.
You're renting, right? This is this would be very unusual now. Your parents would have bought the house and everything by now, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but you know, we got stung in the property bubble, so we're that generation that it's wiped out. So so yeah, that's the nature of it, and you know, there's.
Does it suit you at all, renting? Like?
No, well, it's the insecurity. I mean, I've no interest in buying property and going down that road again. But it's just the insecurity of, you know, you don't know where you could be. Now, we purposely looked out for the long-term option, but the place we first moved into the place we moved into prior here was going to be a long-term rental, and then circumstances for the landlord changed, and that long-term rental ended up being less than 18 months. And this, we're coming up to, you know, where this one here is working out. But, you know, when you bring children into the equation, you know, the uncertainty becomes a bigger
school.
Yeah.
So
and you know, renting apartments is one thing because there's always a supply of apartments to rent. But when you're looking for a house, it's a different, because nobody buys a house to rent with the view of renting it out.
So are you saving now to buy?
I'm looking to buy a yacht and sailing, birthing wherever's cool, wherever the cool town is. And no, like I'm too old. I'm too old to go down that road. A very well respected financial advisor told me I was too old. Reconfirming what I thought. So, you know,
you were too old to get the benefit of a mortgage and
well, no, if you weigh it up, like joking aside, if you weigh up your age versus the mortgage you're going to get, and you know, I don't want to be paying off debt when I'm hitting. I want to retire early and enjoy whatever the latter years of my life are, and I don't want the burden of debt hanging over me either. So,
what age would you like to retire now?
55. I'm out of here. That's the cutoff. I'm gone.
Wow, really?
I'm willing to live in poverty and die and leave nothing to the kids. She can fend for herself. She can get a job at 16 and launch herself. She can get a YouTube account and do videos and become a social influencer or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Johnny, same question to you.
You're on mute, Johnny.
He's after falling asleep, is he?
No, I'm wide awake, even though you kind of changed the topic of what we were going to be discussing to boring houses again, which I think we've kind of done to death. If anyone remembers the shows, and I'm the one that smokes cannabis, so I don't know how my memory is so fucking good. But anyway, yeah, what's the question?
Johnny, it's a recurring theme: the housing, the guards.
It's fucking do my head in, man. I want to talk about Dolores O'Riordan, her legacy, what she meant to the art community.
Matches again, Johnny.
All right, here, tell you what, John. Should we leave it at that, man? If I'm betting on anyone's tits, I'm a bit bored anyway. I'll check in next week. Good luck.
Oh God, controversial.
Very controversial.
Blimey, I didn't see that coming. I didn't mean to offend him.
No, you didn't. You didn't offend him. He's been stewing, I think.
Well, I think he's obviously upset about Dolores O'Riordan and whatnot, and I suppose the us talking about rents and stuff like that. I don't know, maybe sounds bourgeoisie, but bourgeois or whatever. But it's a bloody crisis, isn't it? Nobody can afford to live in Dublin. Like,
no, but you see, it is a crisis, and it was something that actually could have been predicted 5 years ago, John, or 6 years ago, and it's actually going to get a lot worse. It is going to get a lot worse, because even the development in the city now, it actually isn't thinking that we need more. Like, they're redoing Dolphin House here. It's a local authority redevelopment, but if you look at these massive solid blocks of apartments or flats. But they could easily put another 4 or 5 floors onto those. And you're just wondering, why are we using up all this land for such little accommodation? Such valuable land in the city. And it's not that even just in the city. There's enormous transport links as well from around the certain areas. And they're just all single dwellings or small density dwellings. And they knew this 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Would you think that Neil as well, and Marcel and Ruth and Olga, that skyscrapers in Dublin or higher buildings?
Well, there's that building on the docks down near the John Rogerson's Quay area that
Charlotte Quay.
I don't know the name of it, but it's kind of it looks like a high-rise building in that area. It's kind of out of place because it's the only one of its kind. It looks like a bit of an eyesore. But having one building on its own looks weird. You either commit to it or you don't do it at all.
Yeah. I'm really sorry about that with Johnny. I don't know what the hell happened there. It was kind of
well, let's just get on with it ourselves here.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's the last thing we want to do is upset anybody. Particularly people on the show. Sorry, you were saying?
I don't know what I was saying there, but I do think accommodation in the city is going to get a lot worse. And what I can actually see, I can see more families moving out of Dublin and then just being like a job share arrangement with people, or mom works in Dublin Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, and dad commutes up and down to Dublin on the other days. I think it's going to be a lot more sort of flexi hours based on working from home and working from your Dublin office or something like that. Very much like Tokyo, where one person goes to the city to work Monday to Friday and the rest of the family are like 500 miles away in Nara or Kyoto or something like that. I can see that happening. But I also think if you are to get serious about providing suitable accommodation in Ireland, you have to look at reurbanising large parts of the country.
Okay. Olga, I wanted to go to you about the Disclosures Tribunal this week.
It was actually really interesting today.
Yeah.
Well, it's been interesting. It's been a really interesting week. So remember last week we were talking about this letter, this Chief State Solicitor's letter, that was given into the Commission and to McCabe's counsel on the Monday after the row on the Friday. Remember?
Yeah.
So there was a conversation with Colin Rooney, and he was asked about Morris in this meeting he had, and that's what kicked off the row. And then there was a letter created over the weekend. It was given in. It had this significant error, if not errors. That's up to the judge to decide, but significant error anyway. And so remember we were saying, like, okay, so Morris's tape showed this error was incorrect. Then Noel Cunningham, one of the guards involved, his records matched it. So, but the question remained, how did it get in the letter? So today, Charlton, at the very end this afternoon, really brought that home and was like, just don't understand how this could happen. How can we be saying, or how can it have been said that something happened that now everyone is saying never happened? So,
and how could 3 people miss it?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, this letter would have been circulated to the people who made the claim. And so the thing is that so Anne-Marie Ryan is a solicitor with the Chief State Solicitor's Office, and she gave evidence yesterday and today, and if not the day before, briefly as well. And so she was a solicitor for Noreen O'Sullivan and the guards involved, whose names are mentioned in this letter. And so she could only speak so much or say so much because Noel Cunningham and, if I remember correctly, Colin Rooney have not waived privilege, whereas Noreen O'Sullivan has. So she was being questioned, but she would only be able to answer to a certain point. So we could only kind of get so much about it from her.
Because of client
privilege. In relation to the letter, like who said what, so who exactly said what to the council, how did it get on the letter? But then then this evening, the liaison officer for Noreen O'Sullivan at the Commission, the Higgins Commission, Fergus Healy, Chief Superintendent Fergus Healy, he pretty much said, this was said by, this was told to the council by the guards themselves, and that's where it originated from. So they're going to have to explain
Wow.
how that happened. So it was quite significant. And Kathleen Leader, who's a barrister for the tribunal, she equated the mistake with suggesting that Morris was trying to blackmail this particular guard. And so, you know, they really just kind of got to the nub of it, I think, because because I guess that kind of gets to because that was bringing in the DPP's directions, that was bringing in the Misty allegation, not the Misty allegation in and of itself, but just questions surrounding how that investigation took place. So that has been, I guess, McCabe's argument or position all this time. It's that, and it was made clear by Michael McDougall, I think it was last Friday, they are not claiming that they ever expected someone from the guards or from the legal team of the guards to say to Morris McCabe at the O'Higgins, oh, did you abuse or assault a child? They were never expecting that. What they're arguing is that the fallout of the investigation, the fallout of that, and vis-a-vis the Misty's allegations were still being brought into it to basically demean him in front of the commission, in front of the judge. So, but it would seem already, right, that, so this letter was drawn up by counsel, by legal counsel, but obviously the guards had to tell the legal counsel X, and then we had the document Y. So how did it work? Or how that happened? It still hasn't really been fleshed out, but Fergus Healy did say that it came from them, the wrong claim. But it would seem that there's already been divisions. It seems that there's kind of creeping divisions between council and the guards, because Chief Superintendent Rooney, a statement from him was read out today, and a brief statement. And it says, he's saying that he had no prior knowledge that he was going to be asked the questions he was asked that Friday afternoon from his own counsel. So, and this is Noreen O'Sullivan's counsel as well. So, and it was his evidence that kick-started the whole legal row. So the fact that he's saying I had no knowledge, we'll have to wait and see what the council say. And also, Noel Cunningham is claiming that when he got the document on Monday morning, he had to write it in a hurry. And he got it from the Chief State Solicitor, the solicitor with the Chief State Solicitor, Anne-Marie Ryan, but Anne-Marie rejected that this morning.
Poor eyesight as well.
Poor eyesight as well, yeah. So yeah, we've had amnesia, we've had poor eyesight, we've had can't recollect, you know, I'm not, you know, there's been a lot of that at various points.
Sorry, aren't these the very people that can go into the special criminal court and convict me because you say, well, I saw her smoking dope on the M50, and it's just their word, so we know now their eyesight is bad. So he has sight of some incredibly important documents to do with evidence.
Yeah,
but also
people's security, national. You know, obviously there's some. You know, I suppose Bodger was all about national security, but they would have sight of, you know, surveillance documents and undercover details and who, you know, secret files on everybody. And he's got bad eyesight. Well, he should be on a disability pension. Why is he employed at that level?
Well, his argument was that at least when he got it over the weekend, he saw it on his phone and he couldn't see. But just to say, so you know the way there was a document, and then the tape proved that it was incorrect, and then it emerged that Noel Cunningham's notes matched the tape. So we already heard that that the notes came after the tape. But today, it was said by the legal counsel for Anne-Marie Ryan, she put it to Anne-Marie Ryan that in actual fact, Noel Cunningham's notes were given to McCabe's counsel that morning along with the letter. And so that's interesting because on that very day, McCabe was questioned, and he was questioned by Colm Smith, and Colm Smith put the wrong allegation to him. So that doesn't really add up. Why would Colm Smith put the wrong allegation to Morris if Noel Cunningham's document didn't suggest it? It doesn't. I don't know. There's something wrong there.
Yeah. Why didn't Noreen appear? They just ran out of time.
No. So she wasn't actually supposed to appear until probably next week now. But she was going to follow. So Fergus Healy is there now, and then it was supposed to be Inspector Michael McNamara. But now she's been bumped up ahead of Michael McNamara, so she might be up tomorrow maybe from lunchtime, because they haven't. So Chief Superintendent Fergus Healy hasn't been cross-examined yet, and I don't think actually the tribunal are finished with his questioning him. So
the argument about breaking the Kerry babies thing was that a red herring then?
Oh yeah, I just thought it was a funny timing, and I don't think anyone kind of ever got to the bottom of it.
Noreen was scheduled to appear the next morning. Is that it?
I don't believe that's why they said it. I don't think it has anything to do with Noreen. I actually don't think
the apology came out the day before Noreen was to appear.
Yeah, she was due to appear Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Tuesday afternoon, but at that stage, were you expecting her to appear on Tuesday? Then?
No, because it was already running over.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was already running over.
There's another aspect. The journalists. I know with certainty of one journalist who approached somebody regarding Morris, still trying to rake up negative stuff about Morris. I mean, do you know anything about that, Olga? Like,
well, I mean,
still people within the media are still trying to nobble Morris.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the same. It's probably the same journalists who kind of, I suppose they kind of made it clear where their allegiances were from the get-go, and their allegiances have been clear all the time. But yeah, I mean, I think it was quite the response to when if you remember last week when we were talking about when it came out that the notes matched the tape, it suddenly was like, oh, the tape doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And but it was just so short-sighted, or they just didn't really think it through. That no, but how did it get on the letter to begin with? But
some of those guys are really happy about it. I mean, it's almost like, how could you, as a journalist, take the side of this massive institution which has behaved so egregiously, particularly with Morris? I mean,
well, you see, I mean,
there must be a sense where these guys go, oh, we're in journalism to look after the Morrises. Surely, at this stage, they can see that there's a strong evidence that there was a massive collusion just to destroy this one man.
Well, yeah, and I suppose they'd argue, well, we heard today that there were all the other people involved, all the other guards in the Higgins were also went through hell, and their wives and their daughters. And I think the counsel for the guards even said like stories were growing legs, and they were going through all this bad stuff. And in my mind, I was going, stories growing legs. There was a false rape allegation made against Morris and Kate, which she wasn't even aware of at the time.
Yeah,
Higgins, whereas certain senior guards who were involved were aware.
The most heinous thing he could have been accused of.
Yeah. Marcel, have you been following any of the disclosure stuff? The Morris McCabe story?
I do, but not so much in detail. But
I don't blame you.
No.
Yeah, it's extremely.
Yeah, this is the thing. It almost becomes diluted by the details that you need to follow up to understand where it is at any given time. But what you were mentioning, I found it really interesting about the allegiance of certain journalists, and I read about this week as well, and I was really surprised to see that, because like the where the blame sits is obvious, so how can you still say like it's not the fish is not stinking from the head, and so on and so on. It's really strange. I feel.
Neil, Ruth, your mics are muted.
Yeah,
they're talking about us behind our backs there. That's what they're doing.
We are.
Neil has
you're sick of the Tribunal.
Neil and Ruth are close relatives who are guards, so it's a
no, not anymore. Delicate. The conspiracy. I feed back to the Illuminati after every show. No, it feels like, I remember some months ago, Olga, back in the early days of the Telly, I asked you where you think this is going to go, and I don't think anything has changed since then. Like, you've given us a lot of updates. Like, there's been more and more revelations, but it feels like nothing has changed. It hasn't achieved, other than sharing the information. We were as as a citizen of the country, we're nowhere. There's no sense of where this is going, where this is going to end. You know, with all these revelations, all these acknowledgements of all the wrongdoings,
But
there's no discussion about the repercussions.
No, but I guess in terms of the tribunal, it has to be seen through the the judge has to make his recommendations. I guess it might hinge on what his recommendations will be, actually, because how strong they'll be. I guess maybe I don't know. Maybe it won't.
And I mean, but would you think? Sorry, Olga. Like, I mean, if we take at face value that the Kerry babies thing this week is just coincidental with the timing, but can you imagine having, as someone who's been watching this the whole time, and we get to the point where finally the judge is going to make his recommendation, and then some other thing that we're too young to have heard about, some other scandal comes out and there's an apology because the recommendation is perhaps not what it would be if this was not a government institute. You know, we've heard so much now that if this was a civil case, there's enough evidence. If this was a criminal case, there's enough evidence already presented that you can't add any more years to somebody's sentence if this was a criminal case.
Yeah.
And I know they do have to go through the process, but you know,
once they started denying it, you know, the lie just got bigger and bigger, I think, and now there's so many people involved in this now, are implicated.
Yeah, well, you know that they're sorry.
If they just fessed up immediately.
Yeah, completely. I mean, and I think Lorraine McCabe and Maurice McCabe put that in a statement. You know, at the very start, you know, just like there was just no need. You know, and really, if you think about it, like the really disproportionate response to. You know, like obviously it's up to the judge to decide what happened, but it would just seem like.
I think it's still going on, like now.
Yeah.
You know,
and I mean, this was argued by the guards today, the guards' legal team, like that they were sick of it, they were allergic, essentially. They wanted, and that's why they brought in all this stuff about motivation and the DPP and the stuff, because they just wanted it all out. They wanted the truth to come out, whatever that they meant by that. And
there was stuff also about Terry Prone representing both Francis Fitzgerald and Noreen O'Sullivan, and creating statements and cobbling together.
Yeah, and so that'll be more will come of that, because obviously we're hearing evidence of like what happened in the actual commission, and then it's like the background and the backroom stuff, you know, and discussions and stuff. And I suppose we'll hear more of that tomorrow if Noreen O'Sullivan does go up, because she'll have to explain the conversation with the Department of Justice.
Yeah. So, well, she's probably been trained by Terry as we speak.
Well, she doesn't recall. So this is the thing. So the big thing is that she had a phone call with the Department of Justice for 14 minutes. And it was with Noel Waters, the former Secretary General of the Department of Justice, in the middle of that big argument about what they were trying to decide, what they were going to do about Maurice's motivations. Got back to the Attorney General's office. Anne-Marie Ryan from the Chief State Solicitor's office wrote in her notes that it was political dynamite.
Yeah.
But she wouldn't explain that to this week because of legal privilege, what exactly that was that she meant. But then they heard today that there was a watching brief from the Attorney General's office in the O'Higgins Commission. So what the, you know, just no.
Well, it was political dynamite. I mean, you know, Francis lost her job, Noreen lost her job. Again, very, very sorry about the incident earlier with Johnny. I'm sure we'll get him back and we'll be all friends again. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on Broadsheet on the Telly. I want a big thank you to Marcel Kruger in Dundalk, to Neil and Ruth Curran, siblings, not a couple, in Crumlin. Thanks, Neil and Ruth. Olga Cronin at the sheet. Thank you so much for the disclosures and the newspapers. Vanessa Foran, thank you very much for your contributions tonight, and particularly on the Kerry baby stuff.
I hope I wasn't speaking too much, because I heard there was complaints about me talking too much.
Yeah, no, I hadn't. I never felt you spoke too much. And in fact, if anything, you didn't speak enough. You know. Okay.
Anyway, good night, everyone.
Thank you. And we'll say good night now. Thanks, and good night to Johnny as well. Okay.
Bye.